The courtroom air was stiff with tension as Officer Ray Townsend adjusted his collar and prepared to give testimony. On the stand, under oath, he gave a confident, almost smug account of the arrest. The defendant refused all commands. He was aggressive. He made sudden moves which indicated a threat. I followed standard protocol to de-escalate, but he didn't comply. In the defendant's chair, James Whitaker sat silently, his face calm, eyes unmoved. Dressed in a navy suit and thin-rimmed glasses, he looked more like a professor than someone accused of resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. His only movements were quiet notes on a legal pad. James had elected to represent himself, against the advice of nearly everyone he knew. But he had a reason. When it was his turn to cross-examine, he approached the witness stand with no fanfare. The courtroom wasn't expecting much. A man defending himself rarely had the composure to go toe-to-toe with a veteran police officer and a sharp assistant district attorney. But from the moment James opened his mouth, that expectation began to unravel. Officer Townsend, you testified that you followed standard procedure when I asked why I was being detained, correct? Yes. And that your use of force was by the book? Yes. James nodded and reached into his briefcase. The room quieted as he pulled out a large, well-worn volume with a seal embossed on the front. This, James said, raising the book, is the 2023 Use of Force and De-Escalation Training Manual, issued by your department and adopted from National Post Standards. Page 47 outlines the precise verbal and nonverbal techniques required before any physical engagement. Townsend blinked. I'm familiar with the manual. Good, James said, flipping open a bookmarked page and placing a printed slide on the evidence projector. The courtroom screen lit up with a diagram. Levels of force response and corresponding civilian behavior. Officer, did I raise my voice? No. Did I take an aggressive posture? I felt threatened. That's not what I asked. Did I clench my fists, lunge, or display any of the behaviors listed here as pre-assault indicators? Silence. No, Townsend finally admitted. You didn't. James walked slowly before the jury, letting the silence grow. You also testified that I reached toward my waistband. Yes. James changed the slide, showing a freeze-frame image from body cam footage, time-stamped just before the tackle. It showed James with both hands clearly in the air. You mean this waistband? He asked dryly. The courtroom stirred. You said you were trained to de-escalate, James continued. You said you followed training. But according to your own department's material, I was no threat. You escalated. You initiated physical force without cause, and then you arrested me for resisting. The assistant district attorney objected, but the judge overruled it. The officer's credibility was officially in question. For the next hour, James walked through more inconsistencies, radio logs that didn't match the timeline, conflicting officer testimonies, and prior civil complaints against Officer Townsend for similar incidents. Each point was reinforced with policy, precedent, and poise. When it came time for closing arguments, James didn't yell. He didn't perform. He simply told the jury the truth. This case isn't about a threat. It's about a system that allows people like me to be labeled dangerous before a word is spoken. I didn't have a weapon. I had a question, and for that I was tackled, bruised, and charged. Today I've asked you to do what Officer Townsend would not. Follow the facts. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Not guilty on all counts. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. Mr. Whitaker, how did you know where to find that manual? James smiled softly. I wrote part of it. I used to be a training consultant for the department before I left over issues just like this one.